This is my Father's word, and to my listening ears, all nature sings and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas. His hands, the wondrous wrought. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me never forget the thought the rock seems up so strong. God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. Oh, the battle is not done. It's Jesus who died, be satisfied, and earth and heaven will be one. It's Jesus who died, be satisfied, and earth and heaven, and earth and heaven, and earth and heaven will be one.
Reading is from Divine Principle. Since the purpose of truth is to realize goodness, and since God is the origin of goodness, God will be the center of the world founded upon this truth. Everyone will adore and serve God as their parent and live in harmony with each other in brotherly love. It is human nature that when people wrong their neighbor for selfish ends, they suffer more from the pangs of conscience than they benefit from the enjoyment of unrighteous gains. Anyone realizing that this will restrain himself from hurting his neighbor. But were genuine brotherly love to overflow from the depth of people's heart, they would no longer wish to do anything that would cause pain to their neighbor. How much more would this be true in a society of people who actually feel that God, who transcends time and space and observes their every act, wants them to love each other? Therefore, once the sinful history of humanity has come to an end, a new historical era will begin wherein people will not commit sins. The reason why people who believe in God continue to commit sins is because their faith in God has been merely conceptual. It has not touched their innermost feelings. Cheonsongyeon, Book 12, Chapter 2, Section 3, Verse 3. Once people come to know that God definitely exists, they will naturally follow his will. God's will is not to make humanity his beloved people, to make the planet Earth his beloved land, and by bringing these together to make the sovereign nation, this will be the ideal world. Book 12, Chapter 2, Section 1, Verse 6. Everyone has to fulfill his or her responsibility to open the gate to the kingdom of heaven. Then the basic structure of Cheonil-guk will start taking shape. When this happens, Satan's world will naturally retreat. Our motto from 2014 until 2020. Let us become the owner of Cheonil-guk, who practice true love in resemblance to our Creator and Heavenly Parent. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, thank you. Now let's take a moment to prepare our hearts and to receive this morning's message. Our speaker today, Let's welcome her up, Reverend Pobens.
You know, I did this service at 9 o'clock, and I guess it was rather short, but as you know, my sermons usually are. There are two things that I carry on from my Catholic upbringing. One of them is that I'm used to very short sermons. We used to do 10 minutes. The priest always did 10-minute sermons. I always do a short sermon, and I always come on Sundays. That's my background. So, anyway, this morning I'd like to read a biblical narrative, a biblical story. It comes from 1 Kings 3:16 to 28. It's kind of an interesting story, one that has always fascinated me. And it reads this way. One day, two women came to King Solomon, and one of them said, "Your Majesty, this woman and I live in the same house. Not long ago, my baby was born at that house, and 3 days later, her baby was born at that house. Nobody else was there except for us. One night, while we were all asleep, she rolled over on her baby, and the baby died. Then, while I was still asleep, she got up and she took my son out of my bed and put him into her bed, and then put her baby, who had died, next to me. In the morning, when I got up to feed my son, I saw that he was dead. But when I looked at him in the light, I knew that it wasn't my son." "No," the other woman shouted. "He was your son. My baby is alive." "And the dead baby is yours," the first lady yelled. "Mine is alive." And they argued back and forth in front of King Solomon until finally he said, "Both of you say this live baby is yours. Someone bring me a sword." A sword was brought, and Solomon ordered, "Cut the baby in half, and then that way each one can have half of the baby." "Please, don't kill my son," the baby's mother screamed. "Your Majesty, I love him very much. Give him to her. Just don't kill him." And the other woman shouted, "Go ahead and cut him in half, and then neither of us will have a baby." And Solomon said, "Don't kill the baby." Then he pointed to the first woman. He said, "She is the real mother. Give the baby to her." The title of my sermon today is, "Who is the Owner?" You know, this past week I had the wonderful experience of having lunch with one of my cousins. I hadn't seen her in a long time. And we hadn't spoken in length for many, many years. So, and we ended up being together for probably about 5 hours. I'm happy that the restaurant owners let us stay there for that amount of time. And I was speaking about my work and about my life in the church, and she asked me a lot of questions. And one of the things that she asked me is, "What makes your church different than others?" And I answered her, "Well, in my church, we perceive the world as one family under God, and we see God as our parent, truly as our parent." And then she said to me, "But don't many religions perceive that way, profess that they're part of, that's part of their doctrine?" And I answered, yes, actually, many do. However, in reality, many profess that, but then at the same time, there are often racial or ethnic divides. You have the black church, you have the white church, you have oftentimes religious or denominational divisions as well. So though our conversation ended basically there, I continued to think about that question. It's sort of my habit that somebody asks me a question, I will ruminate over it for many, many days and months if need be, years also. Anyway, and I continued to think about it, and then I started thinking, well, if we really say humanity is one family under God, we can't compromise that saying, well, we're one family under God, but except for this one and that one. One family under God means every last human being is my brother and sister, and that I must, if I'm having a problem with somebody, I must find a way to make that my reality. We all know that our actions express our convictions. So people and groups can make lots of claims, but if you can't substantiate your proof, or your claim, if you can't substantiate your claim, it really doesn't mean anything. Or in religious terms, if you can't make the word incarnate, it doesn't have meaning. If we consider the old adage, actions speak louder than words. You know, just 2 weeks ago, Stephen Sprague, during his sermon, asked the question of everyone, look around you. Are we one family under God? Actually, the answer is yes. Here in this room, there are white unificationists, there are black unificationists, there are Asian unificationists, there are European, African, Middle Eastern, people from the East. There are people from North, South, and Central America, right in this room. There are people who are Catholic unificationists, Protestant unificationists. There are Muslims, there are Jews, and there are those who come from the Eastern religions. We can feel really proud that this congregation, this church, is truly one family under God. On a community level, we are a one family under God. You know, actually this month, October, it's 44 years since I joined the Unification Movement. And one of the first things that drew me to the Unification Movement was exactly what I'm just talking about, is I met a group of young people who were from all different parts of the world. And they were living together as one family. And that struck me so deeply. This is what I have always envisioned. One family of people from all over the world with no problems between one another. And actually, probably some of those young people are in this room now. They're old people now. Right? Anyway, sorry. What's that? It's still young in heart, absolutely. We're all still young in heart. Anyway, that was my initial experience, that I met this group of young people. But actually, my greatest epiphany was after I heard the divine principle. And I came to feel that not only is it that we're one family under God, but we truly, truly feel that God is our parent. Now, if you remember the reading earlier today, I want to just reread one little piece there, if I can find where I put it. The reason why people who believe in God continue to commit sins is because their faith in God has been merely conceptual. It has not touched the innermost feelings. And also, once people come to know that God definitely exists, they will naturally follow his will. God's will is to make humanity his beloved people, to make the planet Earth his beloved land, and by bringing these two together, to make a sovereign nation. This will be the ideal world. So, actually, I always had a relationship with God. I always prayed. Since I was 7 years old, I prayed every night. And I always reported to God what I did that day. And I asked God for guidance, and I asked for, I made different requests for my family or something like that. There was always some relationship there. But it was not until I heard the principle that I realized that my relationship to God was really one-sided, and that I spent a lot of time being dependent on God, almost like a young child, always asking for something. God, can I have? I need? Would you? But when I came to realize that God was really there was a personal relationship, and it was two-sided. I realized that I need to be able to ask God, what do you want of me? What do you want? And then I understood that God needed me, that in order to experience love, God needed to feel my love, because you can't feel love by yourself. You need somebody to receive your love. God needed me to receive his love. And also, in order to be able to love other people, God needed a vehicle to love through. God needed me. So I am meant, I realize, to be an extension of God. Just the same as I'm an extension of my parents. I am an extension of God. So anyway, what does that have to do with Solomon and being an owner? I'm speaking about this because our church, this so-called one family under God, with God as our parent, the motto for 2014 to 2020 has to do with ownership. And it reads, "Let us become the owner of Chanel-guk, who practices true love in resemblance of our Creator, the Heavenly Parent." And for those who are unfamiliar with this term, Chanel-guk, let me just quickly review it and its meaning. Chanel-guk is a Korean phrase. Its literal meaning means to become one. So it refers to a world of relationship, a world where the mind and body are united as one under God, and that people with this united mind and body reflecting God create families, and those families are united together as a community, and communities of such people could be united together as a nation, and nations who embody that kind of love go to create one world family under God. So again, and that would be then the kingdom of heaven on earth. So when we refer to Chanel-guk, we refer to the kingdom of heaven on earth. So once again, our church motto is, "Let us become the owner of Chanel-guk, who practices true love in resemblance of our Creator, the Heavenly Parent." So let's break that down literally. Any English majors here? Who is the subject in the sentence? Is the owner, right? And the verb is practices. So who is the owner? The owner is the one who practices. The owner is not the one who talks about true love, but the owner is the one who practices true love. Father Moon, our founder, in November of 1978, said in his speech, he describes the basic practical qualities of ownership in this way. When you work, you must love your activities, love the products that you work with, and of course, love the people. Make your workplace a dwelling of God. Don't just feel like a worker or a supervisor. Invest your heart in the work you do. Determined to make it a business that will serve all people. Then, wherever your business goes, it becomes God's love extension. Whatever you're responsible for, give your heart and your soul 24 hours a day. Feel like you are a parent and it is your baby. Whatever you do, think that you are carrying it out in partnership with God. Feel that you are a second owner and pour all your love into it. The one who loves, this is the important line, the one who loves something the most is the ultimate owner. The one who loves the most is the ultimate owner. So in the story of the two mothers, what determined the ownership of the child? Who was the owner? That is, of course, my title today. Who is the owner? The mother was. She was the one who loved the most. Another story that comes into my mind, this is a personal testimony of mine. You know, in 1974 until 1977, I lived in the Belvedere Estates in Tarrytown. We worked up on the third floor. There's a little office up there, and a man named Mr. David Kim, some of you may know him, was my central figure, or he was my boss. And one day, when I was walking up the stairs to the third floor, he stopped me and he said, "You see those little papers there on the floor?" Yeah, I looked down, there's a little paper. They were like little bits of paper, like hole punches or something like that, about that size. He said, "When you work in this house, then this is your house. If you see something that needs to be done, please do it." And then he bent down on his knees, his hands and knees, and he picked these little papers up. So oftentimes I think that in a home, members of the family forget that the home belongs to the whole family. And that when you love your home, you don't need somebody to tell you that this needs to be done or that needs to be done. If you see something that needs to be done, then you do it. Also in your community or in your church community as well, if you see something that needs to be done, if you are the owner, if you have a heart of ownership, a heart of love, then you do it. You take care of the things that need to be done. This is an ownership of love. Recently, one of our church elders asked me a question in reference to our church motto. And I also want to ask you that question. This question is, are you an owner or a tenant of Channel Go? Are you an owner or a tenant? So what's the difference between an owner and a tenant? Who here, yeah, maybe, huh? It's a mortgage, she said. Who here owns their house? Or at least most of it. I know the bank owns a lot of it too. Who rents? See, a lot of people don't live at all in a house. Anyway, if you rent and you're a tenant, what do you do when, for example, your kitchen sink gets clogged? As a tenant, you usually report this to your landlord so that he'll fix it for you. If you are an owner, you need to do it yourself. You need to fix it yourself, or you need to call somebody in. I call Enrique. Is Enrique here? No. You call somebody to come in and fix what's broken. You take responsibility to get it fixed. Okay, if there's a storm and some of the siding falls off and the shingles come off, if you're a tenant, what do? You call your landlord and you ask him to come and do the work. And as an owner, you need to fix it yourself, or you need to get somebody to come and fix that. And the same thing if your bathroom floor is flooded or your basement floor is flooded, what do? The tenant will call most likely and report to the landlord so that he'll fix this. And if you're an owner, you're going to fix it yourself, or you're going to find somebody to fix it. You're going to take responsibility. Now, actually, I was speaking about this in the earlier service, and John Williams spoke to me afterwards, and he said, you know, your analogy is good, but even more so, when you call the landlord, he doesn't always respond. As a matter of fact, you call him over and over again, and after a while, you feel frustrated, and you feel kind of powerless over things because you can't get in touch. And he was saying to me, you know, it's sort of like when you call out to God. I mean, you want God to take care of this, but actually God needs somebody to work through. So as much as you call out, you feel helpless because you're not getting the response that you need. But as an owner, you find a way to fix the things that are damaged in this world, in the community, in the church, whatever it is. We take responsibility for that. So again, who is the owner of Chanel Guk? The owner is the one who possesses the ideal. The difference actually between owner and tenant is that an owner possesses his property and he takes responsibility for it. A tenant, on the other hand, simply occupies the property and he expects somebody else to take responsibility for it. So if we are the owners of Chanoguk, as an owner, we possess the ideal and we are the ones to take responsibility for it. We are not simply the one who occupies the place of the ideal and expects somebody else to take responsibility. Until now, God has been unable to take ownership of this world because the force of selfishness has claimed everything: nations, people, and the material world. Selfishness and evil have usurped God's ownership over his entire creation. Now God must be able to reclaim the entirety of creation, and God's love must prevail to meet all the challenges necessary to establish God's kingdom on earth, or, as we would say, Chanoguk. But who will carry that out? Will God do it by some magical force? We've established these things. 1, the owner is the one who loves the most. 2, God is powerless without us. The owner is needed by God as his representative. 3, God is the original owner, and we as his children are the extension of God, and we are therefore the co-owners of this world. 4, we've been able to actualize God's ideal on a church community level. But we need to be able to expand what we have here to the community, to the nation, and to the world. We are the owners who will take responsibility by embodying God's love and goodness to build God's substantial world here on earth. And 5, the substantial realization of the kingdom of heaven on earth will only be brought about when we move forward with conviction, boldly and wisely as the owners who practice true love, thus expressing our conviction that what we understand to be the will of God is in fact true. So who are we, owners or tenants? Who is an owner here today? Who is an owner here today? We are the owners. I want you to repeat. I am the owner. I am not the tenant. Together, I want it unified. We are the owners. We are not the tenants. We are the owners of Chanoguk who practice true love in resemblance of our Creator, our Heavenly Parent. Thank you very much.
Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. People, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be found. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be brave. You gotta be bold. You gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, got to be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stand together. All I know, love will save the day. Herald what your mother said, read the books your father read. Try to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you, others take a different view. My, oh my, yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta be gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, got to be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stand together. All I know, love will save the day. Time asks no questions, goes on without you, leaving you behind. If you can stand the pace, the words keep on spinning and stopping. If you try to, that part things just staring you in the face. Remember, listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try to keep your head up to the sky. People, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. My, oh my, yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta be brave, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, got to be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta be together. All I know, love will save the day. You gotta be brave, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, got to be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stand together. All I know, love will save the day. All I know, God will save the day. All I know, love will save the day.